Hey, folks, big news. Me and Dr. John Deloney are excited to announce we're coming to a city near you. Tickets for the Money and Relationships Tour are on sale now. Get yours at RamseySolutions.com/tour.
This episode is sponsored by SmartVestor. Connect with an investing pro for free at RamseySolutions.com/invest. You're listening to Ramsey Everyday Millionaires, where we talk investing, retirement, building wealth, and outrageous generosity. All right, let's get to Sean in Roanoke, Virginia. What's going on, Sean?
Hey, guys.
How can we help?
I was just curious. I've got my 401k on hold currently while we're working to pay off some debt and everything. But while my 401k is sitting there, I've got it sitting in a like a destination date or whatever, my retirement date?
Target date.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I've got it sitting fully in the target date. How would that compare to how you guys typically say to invest in the four different types of accounts?
So the difference with, the Ramsey investing philosophy is mutual funds, diversify those across four types of mutual funds: growth and income, aggressive growth, international. So you can basically think of it like small cap, mid cap, large cap, international. What the target date fund does, and those are largely stocks and equities, by the way, inside of those mutual funds. The target date fund, what that does is over time, it moves from stocks and then shifts to where you have more of a bond mix as you get older. So it might go from 100% stocks when you're 20, and by the time you're 60, it might be 40% stocks and 60% bonds.
Okay, that's pretty much how I understood how they did that. I'm just curious, what kind of a difference if I end up changing to the Ramsey type philosophy in investing the way you guys do compared to how the target date that I currently have it set up. Like, what can I expect from that? Obviously, it's the market. I understand, but
the way that we're teaching, we're trying to get you the best rate of return for your time period. That's the idea. The best rate of return for the right amount of risk, I guess, is the best way to say it, right, George?
Yeah.
And so in your case, having it in a target date fund, you really are dialing back for what most people would consider the risk, but you're also dialing back the rate of return over the years that those bonds start to set in. You're going to have a lower rate of return. I mean, we're always aiming here for 10 to 12%. That's what kind of is like, yes, annualized rate of return.
You want to beat the rate of inflation. And so, Sean, I've got a Vanguard article here that's great. It shows you the return of, if you did 100% bonds, the average annual return from 1926 to 2018, 5%. Now, if you did 50-50, 50% stocks, 50% bonds, the average annual return jumps to 8%. Mm-hmm. But if you were in 100% stocks over that same period of time, the average annual return, 10.1%. And so you can see the shift of, the difference is, Sean, if I was in 100% stocks, we were the same age, invested the same amount, you would be looking at my portfolio going, well, why did yours do better than mine? And I'm going, well, you weren't willing to stomach the risk of the roller coaster. Mm-hmm. And I use the word risk loosely here because if you're investing the way we teach with mutual funds, diversified, we're not talking about single stocks here.
Yeah. We're not talking about the risk of you having something and then having nothing. I think that's very important too.
Yeah, and that's the way that I understood those two, is how that worked. And I have over the past couple of years when I was watching it, we weren't getting a whole lot of good returns. Now, just recently I looked at it and I'm at like 11% today, for the year. But, that's topsy-turvy. But, where I'm only 38, I'm sure they're more like, more of the risky investments rather than the bonds at this point, I would think. But I was just curious how that would play out if I went ahead and I made that change.
Yeah. If you give me a crystal ball and you told me how the stock market would do, I could tell you exactly what would happen. But if it's anything like we've seen in the past, we're looking at almost 100 years of data we have, and we're still seeing, 10 to 12% in the S&P 500. And so that's 100% stocks. And I'll tell you, Dave Ramsey, his portfolio is 100% stocks. It's those mutual funds that we talked about, and same with mine, and I have no plans on changing that. And depending on your personal situation, if you met with a financial advisor, they'd likely say, if you were a 63-year-old retiring today, they'd probably go, hey, let's put you in some bonds because of your risk tolerance. So that's not something that a lot of the financial community has adopted, and it's fine, but the The risk is you're not going to get as much returns, and as you pull the same amount of money out without the 10% return over time, that will deplete your nest egg faster. So it's all about your risk tolerance, and can you ride that roller coaster to where you stay in 100% equities and you learn to live on the growth, and you'll retire with dignity. But the key is I want to have as much in there as possible, so I'm less concerned about the mix and the returns.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing for me was I really don't know much about it. So I just kind of threw it all into a fund because it sounded like it made sense, but I really don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, the key to building wealth is investing. It's savings rate. It's the fact that you consistently put money away. So if we get to the end and you're 65 and I'm 65 and you've got 2.4 million and I have 3 million,
you're both doing great.
Let's still hang out and have a good time. So there's worse things you could do than a target date fund. It's just not. It's not the Ramsey way, but it's definitely a far cry from single stocks and terrible decisions you could be making. So I'm proud of you, man. 38.
Right.
And how much are you investing every month?
Right now, nothing, because we've got debts we're paying off.
This is hypothetical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got $38,000 in there currently.
Okay.
I was contributing to it, but then I pulled back off when we decided to go ahead and just start paying off our debts and stuff. But as I see it sitting there, and I've been listening to your different podcasts and stuff, I was curious how my target date, how I have it funded, would differ, or if I'd be doing better if I was doing it the way you guys keep saying to make the investments.
Well, the big thing is if there was a big dip, I'd be feeling it a little more than you would because you have more bonds. And if there's a big, spike in the market, I'd be cheering and you'd be cheering a little less because you didn't see that return.
But there's a part of this that, the way we teach, obviously, investing, it's over the long term. And so the hope is that by the time you're at the point that you would be drawing from it, you've got a decent nest egg. And so even if, let's say you're in George's camp and you've got it invested the way we teach, even if there is a down market, all is not lost. You still have something that you're living. You have plenty to draw from and live off of, and the stock market is going to recover because we've seen that historically. So there's never this point of it's down and it's never gone back up. You know what I mean? And so in that way, you're both in the same boat. It's just who's going to feel it a little bit more. But then when the tide rises again, who's going to rise higher on the tide? So it's just how
I had
you want
a family member. They came up to me and they said, "Hey, I heard you on this show talking about these 10% return, 11% returns. I'm not getting that at all. I'm getting 2%.
That's crazy."
So I said, "Can I look at your portfolio?" They had this just nightmare mess of like a 1,000 different stocks and bonds, and they were they were halfway in bonds or even more. And so I went, well, this is why your bonds are they're going to barely keep up with inflation.
Yeah.
And so if you want to make more, if you want to get that 10% return, you've got to play a little more risky. And again, this is air quotes around risky. We're not talking about day trading and sports betting and gambling here. This is the least risky risk you could take.
The least risky risk you could take.
Putting your money in the U.S. stock market. Woo! Love nerdy talk.
It's good to go back to what we said, though. At the end of the day, we want you investing. We want you investing in things that you understand. We want you making it a regular rhythm in your life when the time is right for you to begin investing. There's plenty of people, George, who would say, forget mutual funds, forget the 4 different types. I'm just putting my money in an index fund and letting it ride.
Good, great. Happy for you.
I'm just S&P 500 index fund. That's it. That's enough for me.
Like America has a retirement crisis. We don't have a, which fund to choose crisis. The problem is no one's choosing it and no one's funding it.
That's right.
And they got debt up to their eyeballs all the way up through retirement. And it's a major problem. Every news outlet I've been on, they want to talk about the retirement crisis and what to do.
Yeah.
And I always say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today.
Yeah, that's right.
So time, while it's on your side, if you're in your 20s and 30s, every dollar you put in, you're getting like a 5x, 10x, 20x return. And as you get older, it's more like a 2x return when you're in your 50s. And so you got to put a lot more in to have a bigger nest egg. And so start early, invest often, make it consistent, but first have that foundation of debt-free with an emergency fund, because we find people aren't investing 15% while they're trying to make all their debt
massive
payments
debt
happen.
payments. That's right.
So
there's
that's
a way
why
to
the
do
baby
this.
steps works. It's why we have all these baby steps millionaires calling in. Dave and I did a theme hour this week. The plan can still be done in today's America, even with the inflation and the economy. You just got to choose to do it. Thanks for tuning in to Ramsey Everyday Millionaires. To learn more about how to plan for retirement, visit RamseySolutions.com/retire or click the link in the show notes. Ramsey Solutions is a paid non-client promoter of participating pros. Learn more at RamseySolutions.com/SmartVestor.